Okay, so just filed a few, you know, got a few complaints organised. I thought before I head down to the police station, the smartest option would be, considering this is just so, risky, that I would just like give a little bit of information as to how this all came about and why I'm being targeted, who started it, what their names are, where they're from, how many other people they've done it to, etc., etc. And the truth, as to how they found me and what really took place, because a lot of people seem to have a lot of imaginary versions of those events. So I'm going to give you the real one. And this is right before I go down to the police station to, make a formal complaint against the officers that haven't been able to take this seriously, because it just seems to be, from what I can tell so far, is they just haven't accessed my full information, which is, it spreads across the entire country of Australia and possibly, well, not possibly, around the globe. So many people are involved in this, as we saw recently with the guy in the Facebook account, Ryan Fawkes, who's actually, Joe Britt, and from that Facebook page, the Secret Anonymous Idea, they have been relentlessly harassing me, and that's just basically because I refuse to work with them. I mean, I was inside of their page, I watched them do all sorts of, things, questionable things that just showed them to be absolute amateurs, and I just removed myself from their presence. I gave them their page. I had full admin of it after I realised they created a video about us without, even asking. I removed myself from their page, and, they've got a vendetta against me because of that. I just don't want to work with them. I just choose who I work with very carefully. We'll correct Joe and Sarah and Chris, who, are like the little squad that runs around inside the Secret Anonymous Idea. Yes, those are their real names. This is what you're going to have to expect, because I'm going to give the names that I have, and I'm not talking about, anonymous accounts on Facebook. I'm going to give the actual names that I have of these people. There'll be one that I haven't got yet, but trust me, his time's coming. So, just a long time ago, just bear with me because it's so hard to talk about, having to relive this all the time. It was about 2011, 2012, before the creation of the Million Mask March. I was contacted on Facebook and asked if I wanted to be, like a promoter. And this was before it had even started. It didn't really even exist back then. And I was like, already fighting pedophiles, already trying to take down, anybody who abused children or hurt animals, and, going to little protests for people that were, underprivileged or single mothers struggling or whatever it was back then. It was, long before Anonymous came into its prime. So I was recruited by a guy on Facebook who I just didn't even fucking know, because we didn't really know any of them back then. Just to be an admin to a group which was called Anonymous Australia. And I was instantly, targeted by who I now know to be a guy named Daniel Walker. Now, my presence caused a bit of a fuss. I think it was because I was a girl. A lot of these little nerdy boys that sit behind computers or whatever, they thought I was pretty. They developed obsessions and such. They started creating imaginary scenarios that were not remotely real, and I'm talking absolutely delusional fantasies that only something of a sick mind could entertain. I didn't know at the time that while Daniel Walker was targeting me, that he was talking to me from multiple accounts, pretending to be, multiple different people. He would be the nice guy on one account, a dangerous guy on another account, another guy threatening you, and this is all just because of his whatever it was that, sicko, I'm talking sick sexual predator mentality. Back then everybody thought he was so legit. They had no idea what they were in for. Anyway, it started to come about that they had a big fight with a lady named Christine Ann Sands, who still rants and raves all over the internet. Didn't know her back then from a bar of soap. didn't care, wasn't what I was there for. Anyway, got dragged into the middle of an unbelievable shit fight where people that were not feds were called feds, people that were not police were called police, people that were not child abusers were called child abusers, and all sorts of ridiculous shit and stuff that, you know, it's just something that comes out of a movie. And I'm telling you right now that the people that were actually saying and making up those things were so-called anons. And I'm talking paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic type stuff, you know. If you're like a volunteer, which was what I was just a volunteer at a primary school, and I was just like trying to help save the world, and that was my only reason for being there. And next thing you know, like, I'm a federal agent, I'm a fucking Con 6 this, that, and the other, and all sorts of unbelievable things. I was even a Freemason and an Illuminati reptilian shapeshifter. Like, they really went to extremes on their schizophrenic delusions. Yeah, so he, without my knowledge, talking to me, targeting me, I was just a woman and a child, and I was already in a violent situation. I was trying to get out of that. I was already being beaten very badly, and I had a VRO on, you know, my son's father, and I just wanted to do something good, and I thought that was going to be the place, and I was just so wrong. So Walker, at some point in time, via asking us to share links for him, set me up so that, you know, I clicked on a link. He geolocated me because back then it was easy to do, even via mobile phone. They've changed that now, years later. And yeah, so I started getting threatened and blackmailed. Do as I say, or we're going to release all of your information, like even when your child goes to primary school. I'm like, you fucking kidding me? Like, what the fuck is this? So I've got this guy ringing me and threatening me, Daniel Walker, saying that if I don't do as he wants me to do, he's going to release my child's address. He went straight for my child. Straight for the children. Over, you know, as this was happening, a lot of people were coming to me, and women were coming to me, and they were saying, you know, he sexually abused me. He's posted pictures of me all over the internet. He threatens and he blackmails people, you know, and he was in fights with so many people. I would say 100% he was the reason that a lot of people were arrested, because he was just running around doxing completely innocent women, kids, you name it. And that was throwing everybody under the bus, but people just didn't want to accept the fact that that's what he really was. Even his own girlfriend at some point came to me to try to warn me, to say, look, this guy has a sick obsession with you. You know, he sits on the computer for like 14 fucking something hours straight a day, and he just stalks people, creates fake accounts, imaginary personalities. He makes up fabricated stories. You know, he does and says lies, and he uses sexual images to abuse the women. And she was scared for her life. She actually told me, like, I'm gonna go, and you know, he's got my information, my children's information. I'm scared of him. You know, I didn't believe her. I was like, this can't be real. I was stupid back then. She was just, you know, so right. Anyway, more and more women started to show up. And we was like, what the hell? Anyway, eventually, you know, he came for me. He wanted me. At this point in time, like, I was kind of like had a Stockholm syndrome from my own kidnapper, because he manipulated me into a point of fear. Also knew that I was in a violent situation. So the outside world was scary, the internet world was scary, and, you know, he just had me, you know, at his mercy. And he started to want, you know, nudes and sexual stuff. I started to feel really sick about it. I went through with it once and felt so sick about it the next day. I, like, deactivated all my accounts and tried to get away from him. He just went psycho, like, as all sex predators do. You know, I didn't want anything to do with him. And then I found out about another woman who was apparently his girlfriend, which means that he'd been doing that to me, you know, blackmailing me and forcing me, while he also had a girlfriend who also had a son. So I tried to warn her. That went bad, because just like I was once warned, you know, he's got them so good in the mind that, you know, you don't believe him until it's too late. Anyway, I woke up one day, trying to get away from Walker, trying to block him, and he'd released my nude photos all over the internet with my address, a completely fabricated docs that had the most ridiculous shit in it, like I was a pedophile and a federal informant and all sorts of crap, that wasn't real. And, you know, my son's primary school, where he walks to primary school, like, really sick things that, like, no normal human being would do. I woke up to that, and I had people messaging me and emailing me from all over the world, horrified, horrified, telling me that's who it came from. Daniel Walker had released this horrific thing, and he's done it to many people, and, you need to know right now what's happening. And I just, wanted to die. Just wanted to kill myself all over again. It was just like a whole nother form of being violated, and ended up in hospital, fearing for my life, wishing I was dead, suicidal, and he continued on even while I was in the hospital, threatening, sending people pictures of guns blowing off their faces, or other women with children, mind you, and he, just continued the whole entire time, even while I was in the hospital. And he doxed me as a Con66 person, and back then I didn't even know who Eckhard Pfeiffer was, and we just added each other into Facebook groups. That was all it was. There was nothing more than that. Walker, he loved to divide and conquer people, and he was going to do that by any means necessary. This guy is, I'm talking predator, sexual predator. And Eckhard found me in the hospital, asking me, who the hell are you? Why is this docs with my name on it? And I told him the story, and he was like, oh my God, this is so bad, so horrific. Because he's talking to a girl that's in a hospital while this is happening. And they're keeping me in there for my own safety. And back then, there was no such thing as cyberbullying laws and stuff like that. So it was so unheard of, and something of that size was so huge, police just didn't know what the hell to do. Plus, he was putting in the docs to back himself up. Oh, yeah, she has a history of going to the police. About what, though? Him. Yeah, I went to the police because he shared my nude images without my consent after he stalked me, hounded me, targeted me, threatened my children, blackmailed me. Yeah, I went to the police station. It's a pretty normal thing to do when you've got some psycho sex predator stalking you. Anyway, he made that out into be something that it's not, and it caught fire. A lot of people all over the world, crazy heroin addicts like James Duckworth. There was another one, Roberto Raimondo, who shared it. These blind followers of thinking that they're out for the greater good, which they're just, idiots behind a computer screen. Sorry, guys, but that was a really dumb thing to do. I make it very clear that I don't have much respect for them after this because, targeting women and children. I will add to Roberto's defense, when he was contacted about it years later because the attacks continued, he removed anything that he'd shared, and that I have so much respect for. Other people like James Duckworth, heroin addicts, history of abusing so many women, I will have a whole video prepared for him. He has sent death threats, all sorts of stuff to women all over the world. This one is about Walker. So, yeah, we got to work, Eckhard got to work, rebuilding me, protecting me, sitting with me while they created doxers, instructing men to come to my house to rape me in front of my child. There was a lot of people that I won't name that stepped in and helped, and that's for their safety because I will always have so much love and appreciate them for everything that they did. A lot of witnesses involved, some guys that had real good skills just sat with me even on New Year's while, there was literally a doc saying, fuck her and her pussy in front of her child. This is the level of sick that they were. There was another guy helping him who, not going to name just yet, because he made it clear that years down the track that he didn't want a part of this sickness anymore, and he's a very valuable witness at this point, and they are already chasing him because he turned on them. I'm not going to put him in danger because, we might need to join forces later on down the track. So we took down so much of it. It was just a battle constantly. I had state security police calling me and saying, why is your name on a file on our desk? And I'm like, you tell me and we'll both know. So if you don't know who state security are, they're the people that protect the prime ministers and such of Australia. Because Walker had been threatening prime ministers of Australia as well. This is another factor that a lot of people didn't click onto back then. Walker was arrested. That's actually in the news, so you can Google that. He was oddly let free. Why he was let free is a really good question, because he was publicly defacing sites. He was publicly stalking, harassing, doxing women and children and sexually abusing women and children via image-related abuse. And he was, I don't know, it's a really good question to this day as to why they released him. I think he was, a bit of an asset. But a lot of people, this is around the time, the Cebu shit kicked in. A lot of people got arrested. I don't know how the hell I got dragged into all that, but anybody who really knows would be, it was because Walker did it. So it was the years and years and years after that of constantly taking down their goddamn lies and fighting off, the pack of delusional groupies that followed them, that made up the imaginary stories, blew things out of proportion, not realising that the level of sickness at that point in time was you're only targeting a woman and child. It's just a woman and child who stops pedophiles. That's it. She's a child abuse survivor. There's nothing more to it. She's not a federal agent. She's not this. She's not that. Things like that. So those whole sending men to rape me things, well, that went really bad for me because I already had a VRO against a very violent man. Now, if you combine a group of sex predators releasing your nude photos and sending men to rape you in front of your child, and then you combine an actual rapist that beats women, you're going to have to choose the lesser of two evils, because at that point in time, you're at his mercy. You can't leave the house. You can't do anything because you have to survive. And they cornered me in every direction imaginable. The police even said to me, there's nothing we can do about this. You're going to have to go in internally and take all this stuff down. And that's what I did. And that's actually how I became so strong and powerful to this day. And that's what I continued to do for the next 10 years, was just fight, try to voice what they were really doing to women. We didn't just take down mine. We took down the abuse and the sexual images and abuse that they did to the other women as well. There's one in South Australia. There's a couple in, I think, Victoria. There was another one, I don't know where she came from, whoever they decided to target. Anyway, Daniel Walker was working with a guy that went by an online handle named Stephen Daniels. Stephen Daniels, it was next version of Daniel Walker, only, bigger, fatter, and had a bigger page. So, very, very, very bad guy. So, we'll get to Stephen later, but Stephen is actually the one that refabricated the docs, added more nude photos to it, only because of a guy named Gabriel Harder, who decided to sit there while I was on suicide watch in a hospital masturbating to my nudes that Walker had released without my consent. And he decided to come to me and say to me, hey, guess what? I'm going to support you and back you up and help you take these people down. This is horrible what they did to him, pretending to be my friend. And I was drugged out of my brain. They had me on 3 or 4 milligrams of Seroquel a day, which was I could have functioned as a normal human being. If you had told me to jump off the edge of a cliff, I would have thought that was a great idea because I just wanted my life to be over. And so this guy Gabrielle starts this trick with me, So, the way we can get you over your fears of your photos and the fact that you're ashamed of your body is for you to take a couple more pictures for me, and then you'll feel better about yourself because you'll realize that you're sexy and you shouldn't be ashamed of who you are. And if you're worried about it, he told me put an anonymous mask on. That's what he told me to do. I was on 300 to 400 milligrams of Seroquel a day, being raped, being beaten, locked in my home, scared for my fucking life. And this guy's like, yeah, I'm going to make you feel so much better about yourself. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, let's do it. So I fucking did it. What an idiot. Anyway, those pictures get sent in to be uploaded, of course, because that's what these guys are. They're predators. There's a group of them. They're all from Queensland. This is what they do. So, a while later, Stephen Daniels gathers that, turns it into a completely fabricated story, as they've always done. I think Walker kind of tapped out at that stage. He was a little bit over the drama. He knew that, what he'd done is illegal and it carries a jail term. But Stephen, little Mr. Stephen, I won't call him little because he's a big fatty guy, he decided to go hell for leather. And I'm talking to next levels where he gave my children's photos to pedophiles and sick things like that. And it just went absolutely viciously insane. Once again, hospitalized. Once again, police involved. All sorts of sick things. Police were telling me straight up, these are not nons. Anons wouldn't target a woman and child like this. Whatever these guys are, they're more likely more sex predators than they are anons. And that was a harsh reality. So by the time, there was just basically 3 of them. Gabrielle Harder, Stephen Daniels, and Daniel Walker. Now, Stephen Daniels, I've been told his real name is Daniel as well. I have one of his old mobile phone numbers, but weren't able to trace it yet. The police have got it. We're going to go further into that. And there was another person who, you know, has become a witness, and he's turned on them. He bowed out and he just said, this is disgusting what you guys are doing. I don't want anything to do with it anymore, you know, and he turned on them. Now he's become a target of them as well, because, you know, just anyone who doesn't want anything to do with their sickness gets targeted. And the lies that you'll hear are unbelievable. So, no, there wasn't any seduction or fatal attraction or whatever the stories are that are being made up about me. I was just a very scared, traumatized, beaten mother hiding in her home with violent restraining orders, being raped, stalked, hounded, harassed, and, you know, just wanted to die. I mean, death at that point was just so much easier than facing what my life had become, because I was found by these sick guys that, you know, any normal, healthy-minded man would have been like, she's a domestic violence case, and she's a child abuse survivor, and her right to anonymity is, you know, her legal right. It's a legal right by law. They removed that. And it's really strange that instead of targeting the pedophile, who's still on Facebook to this day, they went for the child abuse victims. Only one of many. They did that too. So these guys weren't stopping pedos. They were targeting the pedophile victims, specifically women. I think, you know, if you're vulnerable or whatever, that made you an easier target for them. So yeah, that's actually how that all came about in the very beginning stages of it. Got a lot of witnesses to this. I mean, I'm going to make a video for each individual one of them to, like, tell the real story, that people can hear my voice and stuff, and then we'll move on to, you know, the proof, the files, the police evidence, all of that stuff, because, you know, I'm going to fight that too. I'm going to kick up a big fuss, because I feel like this has gone on for way too long. This has gone on, that started in the year 2012, it's now 2020, and we're still being targeted by, you know, unbelievably sick people, and they're coming up with stories that are just off the world of reality. They're making up stuff that is just so unbelievable. It's not remotely real. And they're doing it under the guise of being the saviors of humanity, and that's what's quite disturbing. So you've literally got a pack of men that are sex predators and woman beaters and woman abusers hiding in this scene, and they're telling all these other people, hey, we're the heroes, come follow us, follow our pages and stuff, we're going to save the world. But these people are not what they're pretending to be. There are some great anons out there. I can promise you that there are absolutely amazing ones, but these guys that I'm about to mention, they are sick as they get. So, you know, they've been able to continue on their crap for 10 years, and I've had enough. And here we go. Like, this is it, guys. Like, I'm going to drop every single person's fucking name, every single thing they did, the real story to what they did. And while I'm doing it, I'm going down to the police station. I'm filing formal complaints. I'm getting legal advocates. You name it, I'm doing it. It's all happening. And, you know, this is just the beginning. So Daniel Walker, that's how he found me. That's how those doxers were fabricated. And next we'll address Stephen Daniels and Gabriel Harder and the truth of what he really did too, because it just gets worse as it goes on. Please keep in mind, guys, like, this is really hard for me to talk about. Like, I have to deal with triggers and feeling sick, you know, I have to relive all of this stuff. But I'm well aware that if I don't do something now, I'm not going to be their last victim. So I'll have to put a stop to it. All right. Thanks for listening.